Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar with the title Life in the New Normal, a real estate perspective. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Richard Ng, the Secretary of KF Scholars Club Malaysia, and I'll be your moderator for today. So today's webinar is our first of a series of webinars brought exclusively to you by KF Scholars Club Malaysia under the FunHub activity. As what our title suggested, life in the new normal. This is definitely a new normal for us at KF Scholars Club, because usually we have our FunHub activity organized physically, but this is the very first time we had it virtually. So this is indeed a new milestone for all of us. Despite facing the COVID-19 pandemic and also the ongoing movement control order, we at the KF Scholars Club feel there's a need for us to continue engage with our club members, as well as KF scholars who have yet to join us as our member, so that we can make better preparation in our life facing this new normal from various aspects. Today, we will kickstart our webinar looking from the real estate perspective. Before we start our webinar, I'd like to go through a few of our housekeeping rules so that we all can participate better in today's webinar. For your information, the webinar will be recorded for our own keeping and internal circulation. For all the participants, you will have the opportunities to submit your text questions using the Q&A function at your control panel below. You can submit your questions at any time throughout the presentation, and we will collect and address them towards the end of the webinar. If you face any technical problems, do use the chat function or raise your hand using the button in the chat. Our organizing committee will come to your assistance. After the webinar has ended, you will be given a link to go to a feedback survey on Google Form. We really appreciate if you could spend some time completing the survey. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our distinguished speaker today, Dr. Alan Poon. Dr. Alan is the first author to launch 3 books simultaneously under the Malaysia Book of Records, when he published 3 practical books on real estate tenancy entitled Good Tenant, Great Tenant series. He is currently the principal consultant and CEO of Superior Wealth Resources. Dr. Alan is also a real estate advisor, a serial entrepreneur, a multi-award winning speaker, and a guest lecturer at 2 universities in Malaysia. He definitely possesses vast amount of knowledge and experience in the real estate industry, because he has been an avid observer of the industry for the past 18 years. I'm also very proud to mention that Dr. Alan is also a KF Scholar and a current member of KF Scholars Club. With this introduction, I would now like to pass the time over to Dr. Alan. Dr. Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Richard. And Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope you all hear me loud and clear, yeah? And I'm very honored for this afternoon by invitation of KF Scholars Club to be the first speaker for your first FunHub online webinar series. Thanks to all the community, especially Dato' Teo, the president of the club, for your personal invitation. And I guess everyone is looking forward to the talk. Thank you for coming in. For those of them who are joining in later, I think there's no issue because we have how long? 5 hours to cover this whole talk, right? All right. The idea of this talk, I think, is mainly more of like a sharing rather than to going through with you all the statistics about real estate. That is the reason why I named the topic Life in the New Normal, a Real Estate Perspective. Just a quick show of hands. Maybe some of you can type in the chat box. How many of you actually have seen me or hear me speak before? If you have heard of me speaking before, you just press yes in the chat box so that I can see. How many of you have heard or seen me speak before? Yep. So there will be some poll along the webinar just to make sure that all of you are, keep yourself fresh after lunch on a Saturday afternoon. So can you see the poll right now? Yep. So if you have seen me speak before, I'm not sure why you are here because I may be cracking some jokes that you may have heard before. But anyway, thanks for the support. But if you have not, I hope you enjoy the next 60 minutes or so. I was given a task to basically cover with you the content of the topic, as well as also perhaps answer some of the questions that you may have. Now, to make the whole session interesting, I will not be bore you with statistics, data on real estate. Real estate is a very dry topic. Real estate is more like, okay, the result of the poll is that 93% of you have not heard me speak before. All right. Okay, cool. And only 7% have heard me speak before. Thank you for your support for the 70%. Yay. All right, so I will not make this topic too boring or dry. I will basically cover some general knowledge, what you call this, sentiment or news about what we are facing now and how real estate perspective is coming into play. All right, because real estate is actually an indicator of the economy. And like it or not, whether we are a student or an individual, we stay with our parents, we live in a house, we need a roof above our head. And at the end of the day, when we come out to work, whether as an employee or an entrepreneur, we do need an office space or a basic building or an asset. So I believe in that context, I want to make sure that everybody's expectation is right for today's topic. Yeah. Okay, so just let me bring up my slide. Okay. All right. So as you can see, thanks Richard for the nice cover photo. This is my latest cover photo, except with the mustache. Yeah, during the MCO, I had grown a bit of hair on the face. All right. So this basically my company is Superior Wealth, and we are very proud to be invited for KFSC FunHub. For all the sweet, lovely introduction, I would still like to be called Alan Poon as an author and as also an entrepreneur. Just let me see whether I can advance to my second slide. All right. So Richard has mentioned to you that I'm actually an author, but a lot of people have not seen my book. Maybe, Malaysia doesn't have the culture to visit bookstores, or maybe you all bypass the local author section and go straight to the foreign section. So just a bit of my what I do. Basically, I authored this book 3 years ago, and without knowing, I was actually invited to participate in the Malaysia Book of Record, and with all the due diligence done, they actually recognized me as the first author in the whole of Malaysia to launch 3 books simultaneously, published by a self-published author. So these 3 books are actually on rental or tenant management. The first book is on basically how to get the right or good tenant so that at least 50% of your problem is solved. The second one is basically on how to maintain all these good tenants, especially now during these tough times where everyone is, having tough times, pay cut or even job losses at worst. So how to maintain some of these tenants, and of course all the stories that you have heard before out there about, all the ugly tenants. But this book is very unbiased. It also covers also the story on the part of landlord. Yeah. So of course, some of the some of the media coverage of me, but I don't want to bore you with all these things. I just want to bring you back to who I actually started as a mechanical engineer from University Malaya. So for those of you who are students from University Malaya, you know, I hope that you are going through your what you call this. You have gone through your time in UM, and really miss those days lah. I think that was more than 20 years ago. So right after graduate, I came out to work as an engineer in one of the largest national car company then. And it was a short period only. Before long, I came out as an entrepreneur, but I had to balance between the time for my career as well as also contributing back to KFSC. And these are some of the photos that, those days that whenever I can, I actually spend some time attending FunHub offline, you know, those days, and also dinners. My first dinner was, I think, around in 2002, not mistaken, 2002. Okay, this was sometime in recent years. The last year I couldn't make it, so my apologies. I hope look forward to the next one. And some of the courses, things that I've actually spent time with some of the unfortunate or needies. This was quite recent, I think early this year, if not mistaken, with Dato Teo and his team. This was I think it was a charity house in Kinrara, somewhere near Old Klang Road. All right. So this is basically just about me. So I'm nothing high up or high special. I'm just like you, you know. We are balancing between family, work, and charity. And I hope that I really want to take this time also to tell all of you that if you have time, contribute more. You know, tell more people about KFSC and get your friends on board. Yeah. So without taking too much time, because actually I have 100 slides over my presentation here, and I hope to cover this within 60 minutes. So hope you can bear with me, and we will answer the question at the end of the session, okay? So I will just cover with you the point forms of what I'm going to touch on today. Basically, life in the new normal is the first part, okay? Because I think today is almost closing to 90 days after the MCO have started for all Malaysians, yeah? So 3 months seems like a very short time, but you know, if you are cooking up in a house, in your own place, you feel that it's so long. So but because of that, 3 months ago also a lot of things have happened. So I hope to cover with you some of the things that has happened, put it into a perspective, and then from there, I wish to actually share with you my perspective on the real estate part on how actually life will be in the new normal. Yeah. So I have to rewind you a bit back to maybe 90 days ago or 3 months ago on what we are facing. You know, it's not just a health crisis, but also the financial crisis or financial challenge that we have. And then the market today, how do the whole country, or from individual to the businesses, to the environment, to institution learning like university and colleges, to of course the government, what are directions and the policies are taking place right now. And of course, when it comes to real estate, there are some of us who are workers, there are some of us who are also owning our own business. So how does this fare in comparison to the policies that are being laid in place? Then we talk about some housing, because a lot of young people are yet to get a house, or maybe those of you who are renting because you come from outstation, you came to KL to work, or you are from KL, you go to Penang to work, vice versa. So what is in store for you guys in a new normal? You know, is it going to be tougher to get a loan and stuff like that, as well as also perhaps the community living. So we cannot also not forget the seniors, you know, those who are in their golden years, as well as also the juniors, you know, the kids beside the productive group, like all of us. Yeah. So I hope that this will wrap up my topic for today. Yeah. And I got to basically go on a bullet now it's already 3:20. I need to go on a bullet train speed lah. All right. So let's recall back what has happened, and I think this one I can go pretty fast because most of us actually experienced this. But just to make sure that some of you understood certain underlying issues that we are currently facing, I think to rewind back, it all actually culminated to around 2 years ago, when actually there was two powers from the east and the west. They were having some trade wars, yeah, and even until today. But of course, things was quite mellowed down in the last 3 months thanks to the pandemic. And before long, since the last 2 years, between the US and the Chinese, and everybody was raising their tariffs for the economic war. Yeah. Then earlier this year we had even the oil price war between Arab and Russia, where people like us, we also realized, oh, how come we couldn't benefit from the 1 ringgit 20 cent or 1 ringgit 25 cent petrol? Because we hardly go out at the time, and it was best to actually use your recycle bottle to collect some of this gasoline or petrol rather than to buy water because it's cheaper. Oil was cheaper, and all these things also affected our ringgit, and our ringgit was like almost touching 4.5 to 1 instance. In fact, if you actually have any, and how many of you actually are into what you call this internet marketing, you would know that if you renew your domain right now, okay, you will realize that the exchange rate is actually 4.7 if you charge it to your credit card. So Malaysia is very much in a very precarious situation right now. So I know it's a bit scary. I don't want we put our country or what do you call this, our sentiment into a negative connotation, but we have to face the reality, what we are facing right now. And of course, before long, we saw the 2 years regime that overthrown the kleptocratic government now actually also been replaced again by another new order. And of course, all this was all because of speculation of who is PM8, and finally we found an unsuspecting candidate to be our new prime minister, which is the very low profile Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin. Yeah, and I think right after that, then Malaysian whole country was actually instead of looking at the phone for the 1 past week of the political impasse, we were faced with a pandemic that is so real, and that none of us actually have actually faced this point in the last 100 years. All right. So as you can see, it was a sea of red, and we wish to see that there are more greens right now. All right. And I want to show you this slide because I think this is one of the best benchmark. Okay, this was basically where it all started in Wuhan in China, where you can see the epidemiology curve. All right. It's all to basically flatten the curve. All right. And of course, we were told to stay at home and whatnot. And it took them almost 76 days, up to 8th of April, before the whole of city of Wuhan was lockdown was lifted. So is Malaysia facing the same thing? If we are, then we are good. So a lot of people saying, nowadays we don't even know which day already. We don't even know lost track of all the cases. Yeah. So I think this one I just captured this for the benefit of all of you who are watching. This was actually as of yesterday. I believe later on around 5 o'clock you will have another latest update. We are quite good. We are quite green. All right, the whole except for I think some part of Klang Valley, all right, the red ones, most of us are in green zone. But I think yesterday I was hearing this comment by our Health Director General over BFM. There was a reporter asking him about, how do we term that we are really COVID free? How do we know that we have won the battle over COVID? Is it looking at the curve really flattening or cases up to zero? So I'm quite surprised that the reporter was saying, is it 14 days after there was 0 cases? In fact, the health DG was quite strict and good in the sense that he said it's after 28 days. Officially 28 days after there was 0 case. Okay, then we can declare ourselves, that we have won the battle and actually, what do you call this? We basically win, COVID, we are COVID free. So then until then, we still have to be very vigilant. It doesn't mean that now at RMCO we can just move around. All right. So, but all these things actually, there was a lot of uncertainty in the last 3 months. And if you have gone through a lot of uncertainty in the last 3 months, mark my words, the next 60 days, 90 days on the next 3 months is going to be more uncertain because, a lot of us are actually facing technical recession right now. Apart from the global trade war that I mentioned and oil fuel prices, we already have a property overhang last year where most of the property are in the luxury segment or above 600,000. That's the reason why recently you heard of the Penjana having any purchase of property above 600,000, you can actually buy with a higher loan threshold. All right. And of course, there's a lot of all this supply shock was affected. As you realize that this whole thing was started quite close to the Lunar New Year. That's why suddenly everybody was rushing for, the face mask. And, I was getting a box at 110 ringgit, at the time. So I think everyone was on a panic mode. People are buying toilet paper. And there were so many uncertainty and shock, everybody is like is in a panic mode. And having said that, so where are we now? Especially most of us are in different industry. So of course we have seen that the tourism, air travel has been hit hardest. As you can see from this chart, the color red denotes the one that is impacted most, all to yellow. All right. Of course, we mobilize a lot of defense. A lot of first liners are from the police and army, and then of course insurance have to basically come in because there was a lot of unexpected items. And as you can see, also certain insurance players are coming up with new plans to cover not just the what you call this, the COVID, but also dengue, and then all the industry that is involved. All right, a lot of predictions are basically our GDP is going to go to negative. And just to put into perspective, the world and Malaysia is that this was quite updated chart until only like few months ago. All this intelligence I gathered not from the web, but I received a lot of intelligence report because we are into real estate analytics, and this is by the World Bank. It says that Malaysia is projecting basically a negative growth lah. Basically, all the countries are projecting a negative growth in 2020, but we will rebound back lah next year lah. But this is just for ASEAN country itself. As you can see, the ASEAN most populous region, Indonesia, is also predicted to be negative, as well as Thailand. And not surprisingly, Vietnam compared to China, they are always in the double-digit growth prior to COVID. And things would be looking, and in fact, they are one of the first country in ASEAN to be basically get back on track lah. So Malaysia will be, I think, looking at second or third. Yeah. So with all these things, of course, initially it was looked a bit pretty bad, but do we run away from it or do we face it head on? I think as Malaysia, we do pretty quite good lah. You know, I did wrote the article back in March, end of March. It was quite timely in the Star. I did say that it's all not gloom and doom lah. You know, because I think all of us know about this Chinese word called, you know, ngai kei lah. You know, for every time there's always crisis, there's always opportunity. So you can check all this out in my Facebook lah. All right, for those of you who are not my Facebook friend. Oh yeah, just a quick check. Maybe the next poll I want to put up is this. How many of you actually are already a property owner? That means you already own one or two properties. How many are you new? How many of you are one or two property owners? Maybe Richard, you can bring up the poll for the next question. Yeah. All right. So there are two questions lah. How many of you are already invested in property? Or when I say invested, means to say you are receiving rental income lah. Some of you say, yeah, I invested to stay. Okay, that one is called basically you own a house, but you don't really reap the profit of it. Okay, and then at the same time, how many of you actually plan to buy some in the next 1 or 2 years? All right, let me just update you with the poll result later on. Okay, so are we doing really bad? Not really. Malaysia is actually very resilient in the eyes of the world. People like World Bank says that, you know, we are projected to be rebound quite fast with even double-digit growth. In fact, one of the reasons why this is justifiable is not just by reading on headlines or report, because nowadays it's very scary when you read report in WhatsApp. Huh? So this is one of the so-called numbers, because Malaysia is one of the largest trading partner from China. And gone are the days when, you know, you heard of the saying that when the US sneezes and the world catches a cold. Today, today we are all looking at China. China is although it's the second largest economic powerhouse, but all of us are connected to China, especially Malaysia. If you can see this, Malaysia is China is number one in terms of trading partner with us. All right. So when you have a country that trades so much with you, all right, whether your economy is good or not, it depends on that country. So China actually rebound back from Wuhan pandemic quite fast, although now there's still some cases on and off, but they are doing very well. And our neighbor Singapore is also doing quite well, although they have a lot of cases way beyond us thanks to their foreign worker so-called community outbreak, but their cases of mortality is lower than us. All right, I will show you the latest figure. I show you already the earlier figure. We have 100 over deaths, over 8,000 over cases, where they have actually lesser than 100. All right, and then of course only we actually talk about United States. So this is actually a relief, you know, if you talk about a general layman of how economic works. So we can't. No man is an island, and we can't live alone. So Malaysia, talking about macroeconomics, I think we are still okay. All right. Microeconomics, we talk about all these things later, like the budgets and all the announcement and stimulus package. All right. So even the latest IMF figure says that, you know, we are in the category of ASEAN 5, or they call it ASEAN 10, 11. Yeah, the emerging market. So as you can see, everyone is affected already in 2019. Not too good, but 2020 we are in a negative zone. All right. China, they are still okay. All right, and in fact, next year it will rebound to almost 7%. All right, in fact, Malaysia is almost close to 9%. This was by IMF. In general, ASEAN is 7 point something. So I think Malaysia, for those of you, whether you are working, whether you're an entrepreneur, I think we are in the right time and the right place. Southeast Asia is not just a melting pot; it's booming, you know. All right. So and of course, all these news even makes it endorses what I just said just now. You know. Especially when both sides of the Bursa, you know, and the exchanges are actually working together. So I foresee there's a lot of trade, a lot of liquidity between two countries moving forward. And of course, as you can see, all these cases, We are very positive with our how the country is being managed, despite having a change of government not too long ago. All right. So just to do a quick one of what is happening, what is happening, and also how are we reacting. So now let's go to the direction and policies that is muted by the government, right? I think all of us know that, you know, everyone was having a tough time, you know, being stuck up at home. Yesterday night, I just came back from KL City Center, and it was during rush hour with traffic jam, and I call a Grab lah, for an unexpected reason, because I was driving to PJ, left my car there, went with a client to KL, and then the client was busy and had to rush off, so I had to take the Grab and go back to PJ to take my car. And I talked to the Grab owner, and you know, he says what? He says even during MCO, they are still working, but they cannot fetch people lah. They were fetching documents, food, and whatnot. And it was a relief for them, not because of the income. It was a relief for them because, you know, they just want to make themselves sane, just to go out and get a breather lah. So I'm glad that now with RMCO, everyone is actually out there, hopefully with all the right strict SOP, you know, stay safe. But of course, all this was in a reaction to what you call this the pandemic. And I think it was a good move by the government to basically stop or so-called break the chain. All this, although a lot of people are complaining, you know, a lot of armed critics were putting it on social media, you know, condemning the government. But at the end of the day, there was a reason why this was in place. Because at the end of the day, they already predicted certain short-term, medium-term, and long-term effects, you know, if this thing prolonged. But of course, once the thing hit, I think most businesses are not prepared lah. Okay, even myself also, I have a few projects going on before MCO, and suddenly everybody start to know how to use the 4-letter word, zoom here, zoom there, you know. All right. And as I said earlier, a lot of things are affected lah. All right. But it's projected at the end of the day, the acceleration of IR 4.0 become faster because of the digitization of businesses. And I think this is all bodes well lah, you know, to even real estate, which I will show you shortly. All right. So we have all this announcement, you know, from MCO become extended MCO, you know, stimulus package. But all this is because the government was actually exercising a few phases. The first phase was actually containment, where there was a dip in the GDP. Everybody was, you know, basically stalled and not doing anything. Employees was good lah, you know, because bosses cannot fire, cannot even reduce, they have to pay salary, but there's no revenue. All right. But entrepreneurs like us, you know, we basically feel the effect. And I think this one, Dato Teo and the rest who are my entrepreneurs watching this, you all concur to this, you know. So we even do not know whether this thing can happen in the next 2-3 months again, you know, whether the MCO will come back again and all the things. So it become very, very scary. But then again, the government was pretty much doing the 2 weeks kind of announcement. A lot of people say, you know, why 2 weeks? Why don't you announce straightforward? But I think it was also a very, very steady kind of you know, implementation. They want to see the first phase 2 weeks, second 2 weeks, once it's stabilized, they go for recovery. I think we took quite longer than the so-called expected, so-called 6 weeks, because it was definitely cannot. 6 weeks is less than 76 days as benchmark to Wuhan. So now we are going beyond 84 days, which was the last so-called CMCO, and now we are into until 31st of August. Yeah. So of course, there was a lot of things that was already planned out by the advisor in the government and all these things. So it's not just a knee-jerk reaction announcement by the government lah. Okay, they have a lot of things in place, and I'm quite pretty happy at how we fare in terms of global perspective. Look how is China, I mean, what do you call this? US is doing right now. It's pretty scary, you know. All right. But of course, one of the best benefit that actually apply in the context of real estate, or even some of you who are doing businesses, is that when you have loans, okay, other than credit cards, which is bad debts, everything will be pushed till October, 6 months. Now, this is something that we have to be proud of, because this is actually the first in the world. Subsequently, we see other countries actually starting to implement the same thing. Okay, now no country have ever done this before. Okay. So this is not as easy as, okay, calling a Ministry of Finance, calling Bank Negara, and then just put this in down. So they have they have to study all this impact. So, but then again, of course, this is good as a breather for 6 months. You know, what happens after this, you know, we have to see lah, you know, as the saying said, you know, we will know who is naked once the tide, once the wave is gone. All right. So this is something good. Because it gives a lot of breather, because a lot of people are actually not having a job or pay cut, or even for office or businesses who's running, you can stop to pay your rent for a while. But this one applies to some of the PPR and also government linked places lah. But I posted something here, like from Penang, from Terengganu, Selangor, you know. So state government, as you know, some are by the opposition and now some are by the government from the federal. But at least everyone is moving in a concerted effort to think of the right at first, although there is some communication issue along the way lah. All right. Now, I want to summarize everything into this picture, you know. So some of you are in different industry right now. And as you are watching this, I believe you have a reason to spend 60 minutes of your time here with KFSC Organized FunHub. All right. So you want to know what entails in the new normal, you know, and how are you affected? You may be not be in real estate, but if you look at it, all these industries have an office under a real estate. All right. And as you can see, those are in the red zone already having high exposure since early January. And those of you who are in the green one, well, I would say that maybe you are in the right time at the right place. But what if you're in the red and the orange? So a lot of my business and SME friends are starting to pivot, already started to pivot. Some slower, some just started to go into Zoom, some just go online. But of course, a lot of people rush into it, all right? Hopefully they have a proper plan rather than just being seen and being seen busy, you know, showing yourself on Facebook, Instagram, and all this place. So for real estate, there are two, depending if property from developers who have land bank, who have not so good strong holding power, you know, and financing, maybe they just haven't gotten and they already launched the project. So they may be having high exposure. Whereas those in the green are basically more like REITs, you know, because REITs are quite sustainable. Even REITs, most of these are like industrial estates or even malls. Although malls are affected, but later I will share with you some of these categories, the subcategory of real estate. Yeah. And of course, in a nutshell, those of them who are fast in the tourism, of course, you heard a lot of bad news in some of the hotels closed down and whatnot, you know, airplanes was grounded. But if you pivot quickly, you can actually go to all these different colors, you know. So we see a lot of people going for, you know, masks and PPE equipment. We see a lot of essentials businesses not affected. You know, everybody's queuing out outside this KK Mart, Speed Mart, and all this Jaya Grocer and whatnot. And of course, e-commerce definitely is the game for the last few years already in the market. And I think it will be speed up now thanks to the pandemic. Yeah. So the whole thing, if you look at it, it is from the macro to the microeconomics. Yeah. I'm not economist, but I'm just observing the market, and this is what I gather from intelligence report. And I believe that, you know, like it or not, all these things, although we don't talk about real estate, we still have to know what is being done out there in the market. Yeah. So as I predicted, a lot of acceleration of Interactive 4.0, you know, people will be now more into healthcare right now. So if you haven't done your checkup right now, okay, or wellness prevention, it's time to do it, you know, because now with all this 14 days incubation, you do not know, even if you do a swab test right now, you don't know whether it's positive or negative. 2 weeks later, you say maybe another barber infected you, just like recent case, you know, a barber just opened for 2 days and, you know, he's positive and he's infected up to 21 over families, 40 over contacts, you know, so all these things is still poses a threat until we find a vaccine. Yeah. And of course, just to make sure that we just know that, so that's why there's so many. I think our current Prime Minister will be very famous for being on TV for the most time. You know, I think in the last 90 days, we have seen him going out there talking about all these pre-heartening packages, which is good, you know, but unfortunately, like example, the Grab driver that I took yesterday, he haven't received his 500 ringgit. So I don't know how many of you out there have received what is due to you, okay? Whether you are eligible for the Gerak Khas pre-heartening for micro businesses, pre-heartening for your household if you are eligible, and whatnot, yeah. But overall, the initiative to announce all these things was good, yeah. And of course, for Malaysia, aside from the fiscal injection, our banking was okay. We still have some liquidity, you know. All in all, we actually up to date, we have 295 billion so-called budget was announced. Some are fiscal direct injection, all right. Initially, the first phase was 250, then 10 billion more for the SME. And then recently, the so-called recovery, they announced another 35 billion, all right. So now when you see 295 billion in contrast to 2.6 billion, what is 2.6 billion US dollar, correct? All right. So of course, then we have gone into the extended MCO until 28 April to 12th of May. And then before you know, we have all this issue whether, you know, our hair is growing and all these things. And I guess, just to cut a long story short, I think everyone was looking forward to this. Now the question is that, you know, will this be debated in Parliament and even approved in the budget, which the budget already postponed for 1 month. All right. So all in all, we know what is happening and this is real. All right. Despite we do not like politics, despite we do not want to bother about the macro things, but we have to look into this as a perspective, because this ultimately for me, especially for me, because I'm in the real estate industry, despite being a mechanical engineer, I was doing training and slowly focusing into this asset class of real estate, and now doing advisory work, and also I'm involved in a few other so-called enterprising businesses. All right, I do look into all this policy making because this one set a direction and tone for how we are going to move forward. Yeah. So now that we know the current challenges and some of the directions policies in place, so what will transpire moving forward now? The next few sub-segments will be some of this is basically my experience and forecast, because I have been dealing with the industry stakeholders like developers, valuers, supply chain like agencies and whatnot. If you follow my Facebook, I've been doing a lot of talks. Some of them are interviewed and in live, of course, I speak for some colleges. These are some of the reports that I actually also told consistently in the public sphere. All right. So let's look into the real estate. How does it affect businesses and workers alike? All right, right now. So for businesses and workers, basically we look into where are all these real estate happen. Okay, from the supply chain, yeah, from a bare land to perhaps the industry, a factory, to warehousing, to perhaps a commercial like hotels, to colleges, university. Everybody now had to go online to study, and the classroom, the lecture halls are all basically left like that. Even shopping malls, cinema not yet open, so a lot of things are left bare like that. So all this real estate, how does it affect the businesses, and then how does it affect the workers? Because workers need to be also going to this as real estate to these buildings. And if you are staying, of course, it's practically your high rise or your condos and your landed properties. Okay. So basically the question is this: real estate is very boring. I know it's very dry. It's brick and mortar. It's just there. You see the building, that's it. All right. But today, when we go into this kind of era where everybody is going digital, so how can real estate transform? All right. So there was this topic in the last many years when there was Portal. I think you heard of some of my good friends in the market, what you call this, iProperty, Property Guru, and whatnot. So those were search engines, so-called portals that you can find to sell, buy, or rent. But those are virtual items. So what about properties? How does it merge right now? All right. So as you can see, there was an advent of changes, in the early days. It started with all our gadgets, gone, Nokia, all this VCR tape, everyone goes for digital camera already, SLR, and then after that you have the smartphones in the 90s. And then in the early 2000s, we have all the portals like I told you, Property Guru and all these iProperty. People are starting to go with a click of a mouse or even using the apps. And by 2015, there's so many apps came out. It was a burst, all right, from the web-based to app-based. And then now, what will happen with 5G coming into place? I was chatting with the Grab driver yesterday. Perhaps next time they can even see the face of the video. Because everything can sustain or so-called carry the data that we are actually having right now. So basically, I would see in terms of businesses and workers, all right, there will be basically this work from home, work from home kind of concept. As you can see, everybody was very professional with all these. I'm just using this what they call headphone, but some people are having these studio mics and whatnot, and everybody investing into that. But of course, they don't invest down there, you don't have to wear. So like just now I'm wearing a short pants. I'm talking to you. Sometimes I put on a coat just to feel good. All right. So I think moving forward, businesses, we have no doubt that even now, maybe some of you are in between jobs and you're looking for a job. Perhaps looking forward in the future, you may even want to submit your resume that, what is your CV looks like, work from home, achieving this and that, multitasking, working 12 hours, 18 hours a day. It's something that you can shout about if you're an employee. I think as a businesses, maybe we will look into some trend of changing also, because everybody now is actually decentralized in a way. So we're talking about decentralization. We need to look into the industrial sector first. Okay, why? Because as much as the pandemic has affected the new way of doing businesses, and a lot of people say supply chain is affected, but actually, if you look into Malaysia, the production is still ongoing. Maybe lesser worker. Maybe IR 4.0 will be what they call this, more apparent, more robotics, more gadgets. A lot of things. Robots are talking to robots are talking to computers are talking to the human. So there will be a lot of all these things that you will see more, although it's already started many years ago. All right, so you will see also maybe decentralization happening, a lot of logistic hub, because if you just rely on Port Klang alone, recently in the pandemic movement control order, You know, I even have suppliers who supply raw material to gloves, or no, rubber gloves. You know, despite all the counters are showing that rubber gloves are making money because there was a huge demand for it, but the raw material cannot even leave Port Klang. All right. So in future, looking forward, there will be certain logistic hub that will be decentralized. At least the supply chain all the way to the end user will not be affected. So looking at this, if you are in this industry or in this business that relates to this industry, whether as a worker or a businessman, you will see certain demand for real estate in a different context already. More and more people, in fact, some of my foreign clients that come into Malaysia, they are asking me already to source for them some of these so-called lands and warehouses, because, you know, let's be straightforward. All of us actually are online buyers. We buy either from Lazada, Shopee, you know, all the marketplaces. How does the product come from? You know, even it comes from overseas like China, it has to come into the port first or go to the warehouse storage before it distribute all the way to the logistic chain, you see. So ultimately, if you know all these things, so that's why today moving forward, some of you are still maybe studying in university, you may see that there is this supply chain management degree or courses. Perhaps this is some of the angle that you may want to go in as well, you know, or do a double degree on that. So look, moving forward, you will see more of the IKEA type of warehouse in Malaysia, okay, where a lot of businesses or SME will basically utilize maybe 3/4 of their warehouse at the back to put on storage, you know, high ceiling and whatnot, and the front part will be retail, you know. So basically, retail is not just no longer shop lot; it can be in that way already. So these are some of the trends or the patterns that I look at in the real estate perspective. All right. Now, in the retail fund, what happened? I think this was this news came up right before the pandemic was happened in Malaysia. I think somewhere in January, early this year. You know, big names in locations next to KLCC, you know, are closing down, and this was not even during MCO. All right, retail already affected because of the O2O transition. For a lot of people are going online. So how does this affect? You know, asset owner like this building basically suddenly have a vacuum of a net lettable area already. So who is going to replace this? Because it was designed as a shopping mall, yeah. And even Malaysia, the real estate market was hit badly. I think I'm not sure about you, but those of you who went out during the MCO time or the CMCO, you will see that, you know, you can easily find parking in One Utama or Mid Valley very easily. Now I have many friends in this context. Those are fast. They pivot very quickly. They either work with their supply chain, they do together online, or some of them were actually smart. They move their things and then they do it in a different setting. All right. And this was only 2 days ago, if not mistaken, yesterday or 2 days ago news. Even big brands like Zara, 1,200 worldwide stores will be actually closing down. They are retracting everything. And this is a big name, you know, they also own Bershka, what they call this Pup and Bear and something like that. So is this the trend moving forward, you know? But like I said, in every opportunity, every crisis, there's always opportunity. So does it mean that eventually nobody goes to the mall? Now I beg to differ, all right? Because one of my clients that I brought into, they are foreigner, they come into Malaysia. Today, they are not just looking for warehouses, they are looking for even shopping mall. And why? Because when these places are already emptied, what can they do? Well, they can do a lot of things, okay? As also a business and real estate consultant, I basically advise and I see a lot of business model in there. In fact, I may reveal to you, I never revealed to you before, okay? There's something big coming up in KL, right? Soon, very, very soon, yeah? Because why? It's no longer just the normal traditional shopping, you know. In future, we are looking at real things, and these are real photos that is not conceptual, okay? Like the one on the top left, all right? This is already happening in China. Because you know why? Everyone talk about hygiene, you know. You don't want to touch the same shampoo that someone have touched, place it back. Because why? Your hands, there's a lot of germs, though you sanitize it before you go in. So everybody will be going on the virtual kind of panel, you know, where you can swap, you know, just like an iPad. Okay, but of course, this one with 5G is amazing, you know. You can just click. You don't have to just see the videos in US like Amazon Go, where you go in without a wallet, it's cashless, you know. Like in Japan, where they have all this geotagging, and you know, you can just scan your phone, not just the QR code. You can just stand with like, you know, the Pokemon Go. You just use your AR, all right, and then you zoom around. You can see the prices from far, so you don't have to go to the same person. Example, you go to Speedmart. Someone in the alley, 8% was in the store. So how can you know? So you can already, before going to the store, you already have all these things. So these are some of the technology that will revolutionize how business is run, which means retail will not be dead. Retail mall will not be dead, I repeat. Yeah. The only thing is how convenient it can be. All right. Of course, now it's difficult lah. I know. Yesterday I just went to IKEA and then people are queuing up for 30 minutes. You know, I heard my friends 3 days in a row, Friday, Saturday, Sunday also that he cannot go because why? Parking is jammed when you queue up. You know, and if you have certain temperature, you can't. So there's so many things ongoing lah. So I believe all these things is a reason why change is imminent. Change will come. And even there was this article by some of my friends in the industry who says that, you know, malls must now evolve already. It's no longer where a place where you come eat, see movie, hang around. Okay, it must attract you to go. All right, and most of these people is usually in the Gen Y or the so-called younger generations lah. People like me, a bit dinosaur, maybe a bit different lah. So we are talking about business, yeah. So on and all, how does this work? How to attract people? You know, by putting big signboards, by having maybe cheap items. Not really, okay? If I may share with you, I think this is the first time I ever share on this talk or even on a public platform. You know, the trend moving forward will be something like this, all right? Where merchants, they use the space in the mall to do live stream, all right? Now, this is something very new in Malaysia. In fact, Malaysia do not have this. Everybody was just using Facebook to do some live stream. Now, that is not so much the case. What can you imagine in the next near future where all the retailers, not much a walk-in crowd, but everybody is like a little go shop or Astro, you know, a studio in the mall where everybody, you know, in fact create more jobs for the production so-called team, you know, and they're just doing live. They're just doing live. All right. The trend, of course, definitely started way back when Alibaba was started, and it was only big back in 2018, 2 years ago. And then started with Japan, and then the second country that adopted this was Japan. And today I'm proud to tell you the third country that is adopting this big and fast will be Malaysia. Now, why? Why Malaysia? Because I'm actually one of the guys who is instrumental to get this up, the first Malaysian live stream mall somewhere in downtown KL. All right. Watch out for the news. Check my Facebook. You will see that this is coming up soon in Malaysia. Big time. All right. Where people are actually, you know, using the actual product, real people, real shop, all right? But instead of going into shop, you have an influencer, KOL or celebrity telling you the product, you know, giving you happy hour purchases. So these are some of how real estate landscape will change in the new normal, yeah? And it's no longer O2O, it's all OMO. Everything when you buy, within that hour, you click, immediately it will go ship to the logistic. So everything will be shipped out and reach your house within a day or two, all right? You no longer have to wait for 3 to 4 weeks and then start at custom lah, cannot release lah, and all these things, yeah. So these are some of the things that is moving forward lah. All right, all these app will be very critical already, you know. So a lot of people today are still stuck in the O2O stage where they start to use a third-party platform marketplace to do businesses. Then they are charged with auditing, pass down to customer. Then we realize how come we buy a pot of maybe, you know, a curry ikan kepala so expensive and reach our house. But those who adopted OMO, they will have all these apps that immediately they can do. So for those of you who've been to China, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Of course, then again, we still have to be very vigilant. You know, we cannot just move around, you know, without the vaccine in place. So we have to actually look at confined spaces. All right. These are some of the actual photo that I took. Of course, the left one is in Thailand, but this one is, you know, everybody is basically not facing each other anymore. But then again, it depends, you know, as much as we can avoid somehow, we still try not to. If you see somebody you're not comfortable, let them go into the lift first law. All right. So of course, Thailand was fast. Singapore also, they were doing this buttonless kind of lift, you know, for public hygiene where you can just step on the floor. So these are not just happening. It's already coming to Malaysia. I heard Singapore already have it. All right, Thailand. So floor shifts, which is actually quite innovative, you know. So of course, if you look into this, for those of you into this business of electronics or gadgets, so that's why a lot of retooling will happen in the factory space as well, to retool some of the their equipments, you know, to fit some of these new businesses that are coming in. All right, user friendly and whatnot. And of course, if you talk about F&B in all these retail malls or even shop lots, shop lots out there nearby your housing area, there's a lot of things that you will see. And moving forward, isn't it what actually Hong Kong actually so-called experienced back those days when the SARS happened? You know, they put what you call this chopstick, everything into the hot water. Today, we are doing it now, okay? And we are wearing face mask or face shield, all right? and this was very recent. I took also, in Coffee Bean. Basically you have a very private, you don't have to go for private dining with your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend next time. Just go to any outlet, you have a private sphere already. All right, everybody's social distancing. And well, whether this translates to a more expensive hang of food or meal, to justify the rental, that one's subject to be seen lah. All right. But if you imagine if this one can also do live stream, isn't it good that you can even now order and drink it, right from the spot? Yeah. And then we talk about from retail mall vision to example buildings like hotels. I think some of you already seen this kind of news where, because of nobody is traveling now. But not today, I think AirAsia announced unlimited travel again. And, beside airplane, hoteliers are banging it on domestic. So I foresee the tourism will recover very soon as well. A lot of people say they are the last to operate. I don't think so. Okay. But you don't expect to stay in a hotel where you have a buffet line lah. So maybe a lot of this real estate space will be revamped and think of to a different thing. They will not be reflexology anymore. Maybe just a room where you don't even have housekeeping every day. All right, you have to maybe put your own blanket outside, and throw into a self-cleaning laundry and things like that. So a lot of things will come in moving forward. So these are the future that I am talking about. Yeah, as you know, because the virus. The whole world can be COVID-19 free one day with a vaccine, but we can even have COVID-20, COVID-21, touch wood. Yeah. So there's a lot of uncertainty moving forward. So a lot of people are talking about, short stay and then hotel. So what about convergence of this? I mentioned this in one of the first keynote in the short stay platform in recent years. So perhaps a hotel can be turned into a wellness asset as well. Gone are the days where, when I talk about wellness asset, it's not going in for a spa, don't get me wrong. That's why I put this picture where there's no pool. A lot of people thought wellness asset is, yeah, I have some reflexology, I have a swimming pool, that's a wellness asset. No, wellness asset basically means to say, including all these, what you call this carpet here is all ionized. You come in this room, your aircon is filled with maybe a lot of organic stuff, even you sit on this chair is maybe ingrained with some of materials that make you, a massage chair. And of course, your own so-called tub that you don't have to share with people. Once you go out from it will sanitize by its own self. So these are some of the things moving forward in terms of real estate. All right. So will hotel be dead? I've said retail mall will not be dead. I've also said hotel will not be dead. But space utilization will continue to evolve. And all this speaks a lot of volume. And thanks to the so-called new normal, we will see a lot of these things coming in. So for those of you who are still waiting, going back to work on the new normal, you need to wake up. You need to wake up. Even if you are a worker, you need to be an intrapreneur in your own company. And I hope that's why I try to give you this kind of picture so that at least you will find this 60 minutes useful and productive when you go back on work on Monday. A lot of things you can put on mind and suggest to your boss or employer, or including if you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of things that we can sit down. If you have asset, definitely I'm the one who can talk to you, because I have a company that unlock the potential, a lot of assets, bringing in a lot of things to make sure that the product, the asset actually yields up. All right. So I've also written a lot of articles in the Star on wellness real estate. What can we do? How can we energize the market? Because especially after the scare, this health scare, a lot of people are very, very concerned now about wellness and health already. So it could be another so-called opportunity or the next wave. Yeah. Then of course, last but not least is offices. Is offices redundant? If everybody can work from home, will it die? Again, as much as we all can say, yeah, cannot. No, that's why I got a lot of friends who say that, how can people now? How can real estate agents still work? You cannot even do viewing, all this thing. But for those of us in the industry, we see a different light. When we know, and this is not just optimism, it can be done. Okay, offices can be now turned into perhaps, of course, it can be turned into a lot of co-working space, but co-working not on open area. It could be co-working, but everybody will become very small, like a pigeonhole box in the building, so that everybody can do their business. All right. And during the MCO period, we also saw that many places are giving free rental. All right. Free rental started with a few, and then everybody started to learn. All right. So will offices be dead? I don't think so. At the end of the day, I think it's all about how businesses within the same compound. All right. So you may have two businesses in the same company. Can they share Wi-Fi together? Example. Can they share this and that together? So it's about working together. There's a saying that is your friends, your enemy is your friend. So perhaps nowadays a lot of competitors should work together. They can even JV, they can do a lot of M&A and releasing liquidity. And the latest announcement by Penjana also say, they're looking into some relief if we can bring in some foreign factory to come here with some M&A and whatnot. Yep. So quickly, how much time I have? I still have time, right? Okay, cool. So I hope you have some questions because once I finish, if you have any questions, then you can just check, maybe just to clarify some slides, or maybe to ask me some questions related to real estate. Okay. So now we talk about business and workers. A bit dry, right? Now, what about yourself? Some of you are actually, getting a career up. You are pak-toing, dating, and some of you are starting a new family. You are planned for a wedding this year. You cannot run your wedding. So how does it affect you? Or maybe you are a parent and your kids are already finishing studies. So how does this working adult, the productive group, how does housing or real estate affect you? In the new normal? All right, let's look into it. I think first thing first, we have to know that I foresee there will be a lot of demand going to landed properties. Number one, high rise, there's a maintenance cost there. All right. With the economy now recovering, it will still take time for a lot of our income to grow. And as you know, most of our income does not grow since the last 20 years, maybe. All right. So high rise or strata, there will be people still staying, but a lot of people will still feel that, maybe due to social distancing, if I call a Grab, they have to come up, I have to touch the lift and whatnot. So in the short term, maybe there will be lesser demand for high rise. All right. But there's still a lot of supply. There's still a lot of supply. So for those of you who think that this is a good time to go into the property for opportunities, for those of you who are in the poll just now who say that you wanted to buy 1 or 2 properties, you can look into this more like an investment, perhaps, because there are still people who are coming out from different outstations who may want to be based in certain place. All right. And but whether you want to stay in here, I think more people will look for landed nowadays. At least you have your own compound. Imagine if another wave of COVID 2023 come, touch wood, or whatever, at least you can still stay within your compound. You can jog if you have your own garden and whatnot. Not that to say that the condo is smaller. I know some of you can afford penthouse and whatnot. All right. So, but moving forward, whether it's landed or high rise, the first thing is on all this young adult mind is still at the end of the day, can I buy? Is the loan okay or not? So life in the new normal is in such a way that it is the best time to buy. Now, I'm not an agent and I'm giving this on a non-biased basis. Why I say so? You already see this in January before COVID, that our OPR is basically it will affect your BLR, the interest offered by the bank. It was cut down 50% basis point. All right, all the way down, I think in end of January, and that was the time when Bank Negara already anticipated the soft economy. You see, Bank Negara, whenever they announce something, it's not for hanky-panky. They already know certain things out there that we do not know, or maybe some of us know, and it's just to so-called reaffirm the trend. So when it goes to a 9-year low, and recently, all the things that was announced, I think 2 Fridays ago, last Friday, wow, we are looking at even actually not just recovery, we're looking at a property bull run. All right. A lot of people say want to buy low, right? Buy now, if you want to buy. All right. Because why? These are off statistics. All right. Our basis point, and I heard, and I can expect, all right, perhaps there would be another round of reduction. Okay. But I have no crystal ball. I'm not predicting. I'm just saying that going by the trends of things are going on, we might lead more liquidity release from the central government all the way to the economy. Because by releasing this, basically now, it means what? It's no longer any point for you to put your money in the bank, in the FD or whatever. Not. I'm not asking you to spend on gadgets or whatever, but it doesn't make any sense, Some banks are even, it's just like some countries are even having 0%, or 1%, or even negative. They pay you to put in the bank. So I hope we don't reach that area. But now with this thing, for those of you who have proper plan, you are getting married, you want to buy a house, this is a good time to source for it. Of course, you need to find the right property. So it's very attractive financing model. All right. All the banks are, going very low. In fact, this is a bit dated in March already. All right. But of course, I've written a lot of articles in the past. It's not just about loan. In terms of financing or financial consideration for property, you need to look into a lot of all these items. Okay, we shall talk on another day, not today. If I got a chance, I invited back by KF one day or so. All right. So some of the things. All right. So, but most importantly is that you must have a secure, proper job before you go for investment. Yeah. Now, a lot of people are going in for the fast money, hearing some guru talk out there, do your due diligence. Yeah. I no longer do all these B2C talks. Usually, I have run a lot of classes in the past, but today I'm more giving commentaries in the media because I'm busy with my advisory work and a few other businesses that I have related to property. So that is the reason why you must know what to go into so that you don't go into the financial doldrum. All right. And of course, I don't have to tell you, this is my grandpa. My grandpa, I think all of you know my grandpa. My grandpa says, rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. Yeah. So I think this is a very simple rule to apply, but doesn't mean that you be so careful to hold on tight to your money that you miss the golden chance. All right. So this, don't get me wrong, this topic today is not a call to buy property. Okay, I'm not here to tell you property is all good, all these things. There's a lot of intricacy and very complex, but at the same time, it's not too difficult. All right. But this topic is just to basically share with you today on my perspective on the new normal and how real estate landscape are changing very fast, very, very fast. All right. And for those of you who are giving rental discount to your current tenant, good for you. There is tax incentive, but you must give at least 30%. Now, for those of you who are renting, you're in KL, now is a good time to tell a landlord, I'm affected. My boss asked me no pay cut, asked me to work 12 hours a day. I'm so tired, come back, all these things. I don't know, whatever you tell. If you can get 30% off, you remember your landlord, you can actually claim for tax incentive. Yeah, so this is something. Okay, so last but not least, before we go for some question and answer, is that let's not forget the young and the old. So what about those young and not so young people? What is happening to them? All right. So I think the first thing is that for those of you who are parents like me, all right, I have 3 kids. Yeah, not so young anymore. All my kids are basically schooling and they are now stuck at home. Initially thinking it's holiday and now they are all Zooming better than Papa already, I think they were the one who teach me how to use Google Meet, Google Hangout, and MS Team, I was still using Zoom only, And so how does it change for them, does it mean they definitely miss school, they miss their friends, they miss the library, those who are in the tertiary, they miss the lecture halls. So how does it entail? Of course, as you can see, Tasca or daycare center already changing in Malaysia, there will always be this social distancing thing while remaining co-learning together. I've seen it in Vietnam, I've seen it in many places, school resume, but very strict, very strict. So I believe in the next maybe 60 to 90 days, if it's fast, if it's not next year, school will be the last industry to reopen education. And even if it reopen fully, you will see maybe there will be a usage of the building in terms of the morning session and the afternoon session. All right. Because a single stream session does not accommodate anymore, because you cannot put 40, 30, 40 people in a classroom anymore. I think the highest risk will be the teacher, So these are the things that is ongoing. Yeah. And of course, this is in China. You see tables are being segregated. To a certain extreme, Japan are even having that face shield, in front of their table. So I think this is something good, because you want to educate also, besides protecting our kids, you have to educate how the youngs are moving when they grow up, because they are the ones who may be very so-called subject to touching all the face and whatnot. So I think moving forward, there will be certain physical classroom, but there will be a lot of safety aspect, and you will see a lot of things also changing. But if you look into this, there's also a lot of costs incurred in running an institution. So will university and colleges be the same? Because we all are fear of the cost of education. So for those of you who are thinking of going into education, perhaps you need to understand maybe now distance learning, online learning, and all these things need to be there as well. Yeah. And of course, you talk about the junior, the people who are not so affordable because of pay cut, whatever. This was already quite long in the real estate market. People are talking about it, but I think with the new normal, everybody will speed this up. All right, there will be more transit homes. You can Google this. In Malaysia already have. Transit homes are basically for the people who are young, for the one who cannot afford a house, they can stay and rent, all right, for a few years before they move on, save some money and buy their own house. Okay, so there will be a lot of communal living. But within the communal living, also be careful. There will be communal table to eat and whatnot. So everybody will be co-working and co-living in the same time. All right. So you will see some of this structure already. Hopefully, we don't have to resort to Hong Kong, where everybody is living less than 200 square feet in a pigeonhole. All right. So co-living would be the trend moving forward. Yeah. So all in all, what I've just basically postulate or basically share with you is mainly changes, and nobody should be subject to this, what I call the comfort zone kind of circle, whatever we are familiar with, to throw away already. Nothing is new. In fact, I even challenge this word called new normal, because yesterday was normal, today is new normal, but tomorrow is not new normal. Tomorrow is a newer normal of the new normal. Correct or not? So ultimately, we are in a transition period, whether we are working, doing business, even we are in education. Even today, we are exploring FunHub online, and moving forward, we will have more things, maybe one day you can see me virtually with a hologram and, having AR in your house, in your laptop. You can just hold your phone and then you can see me there already. You no need to on this laptop or phone, because if you're using a Zoom on the phone, when there's a phone coming in, you will be disrupted. Using a computer, you can't be mobile. So how? Maybe it's on your phone next time, or on your watch. You can see a speaker speaking to you already. So all these things are changing, all right? But I hope that you all can overcome this fear and learning zone fast so that you can go to the growth zone, all right? So I hope I can given you quite a bit of perspective. I can't do everything in just an hour, all right, of how real estate are changing because of the need of a new normal of hygiene and all the risks, our biggest enemy, okay, the invisible enemy, all right? So I would wrap up this topic by saying that life in the new normal is all about us. How we want it. We want it to be fast, we want it to be slow, it's all about us. We cannot just sit down there and uncritic and complain the government. We cannot complain this and that. In fact, I will always tell people when it comes to property, it's never about the loan, it's never about the government, it's never about the developer, it's never about the location. It's only about things, it's about us. Can we afford or not? So our affordability depends on whether we can make use of our income or not. If you feel that your income is not good enough, do a side gig. It's no shame to do a side gig. I have done many things. I'm a very enterprising person. I've done many things. In the past, my parents, when they came out and tell me, Alan, you are a Kuok Foundation scholar, you get a first-class degree in mechanical engineer, you should get a good job. All right. But personally for me, after a few years in the corporate, in the CEO department doing branding, I was like, for me, I know what I want, and I went to being an entrepreneur. Of course, the journey wasn't a bit of roses, and I'm glad to so-called impart maybe a bit of my experience here within the constraint of time, and I really hope that you get some gist out of it lah. So okay, so hopefully no one is left behind throughout this thing. We just have to kita jaga kita. We have to just move forward. So I'm going to end, and for those of you, I know some of the Kuok followers are pretty much very what's called these people with a lot of very productive. Some of you who in the medical line, like Dr. Richard, in the health KK Kesehatan, or even the public service, I would love to really thank you for all your service, current during the MCO period lah. All right. Now, if you feel that you're not boring until now and you still want to follow me, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn. But mainly on Facebook, all right? You can just follow me. My name is Alan Poon, and I'm just your Kuok scholar. If you want to support me, want to support my youngest with some Pampers and milk powder, you can always go to the bookstores, get this book at $25.90, yeah? And I wish you all the best, and I would like to pass this, stay at home. And also, I would like to pass this session back to Richard or Ivy. Before I end, I would like to thank the whole community, President Dato' Teo, CY Vice President, Dr. Richard, Ivy, JC, and the whole community for basically putting this up. It's not easy, and I really thank all of you, especially the audience, for really spending your time this afternoon with the whole team. All right. So with that, I would love to end my sharing. Thank you very much. All the way to you, Richard.
Right. Okay, thank you, Dr. Alan, for the interesting and informative sharing. I'm sure we all gain very useful insight because you have covered from the microeconomic perspective into microeconomic, and also telling us how the real estate would perform in this new normal. So now we would like to move on to the Q&A session. If you haven't submitted your question, you can still do so by using the Q&A function at your control panel. Okay, so let's start with our Q&A. So we have actually gathered a few questions even during our registration. So the first question that the audience asked is, actually I would like to show the poll result earlier. Because actually, I just like to mention that actually many of you actually have planned to do some kind of investment in the next 1 to 2 years, despite the economic downturn. And as Dr. Alan has mentioned, when there's there's a crisis, there's an opportunity. So same goes with the investment opportunities. So I'd like to ask Dr. Alan, if we have a limited amount of money for investment, is real estate a good investment vehicle for us to go into compared to other kind of vehicles? For example, stock market. So what far we have seen that it has posed a V-shaped recovery, and some even say that it's like an ATM. If they have invested in some healthcare stocks like the Gloves company, that's gone up 300, 400%. Or even investment in metals like gold and silver, where the price has been quite resilient. And also many other new investment like cryptocurrency and also crowdfunding investment. So if you have limited amount of money for investment, is real estate a good option? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Richard. It would be good to know, let me know who asked this question as well, just to credit the person. But I think this is a very general question, and I can't be basically, and I never actually really give any feedback advice on financial investment publicly, because I have to be very responsible for my answer. But just, I believe the asker would like to know, is it the right timing to go into property right now? Yeah. First of all, I think, you know, I would be very biased because I'm a guy who looks onto tangible things. You know, I invest in gold and silver. I invest in businesses shares because those businesses are legit and it's tangible. I invest in what you call this property mainly because it's brick and mortar. If you ask me to invest in virtual items, things that I do not know, basically out of my circle of competence, I wouldn't touch it. And I believe you shouldn't as well, because you shouldn't put your hard-earned money into things that you do not understand. That's one. That's why I always advocate education. We need to basically know what we are going into, what are the so-called risks that is involved. There's no such thing as a safe investment. Even property, you need to handle the tenant, you need to do it. But does it mean that it's not good? No. All right. But if you ask me, that's why I say I'm going to be biased. I'm a property guy, and I've basically reaped a lot of benefits from property. But I always tell my entrepreneur friend that, you know, if you have a business, you need to hedge it with property. Because during bad times, like, you know, in the last 90 days, if you have a property, you can immediately charge it to the bank or do a top-up loan or refinance it for immediate liquidity. All right. Now, of course, the share market has been very exciting. I know a lot of people went in, and, you know, suddenly certain companies, you know, the market capitalization becomes so big that, you know, they become overnight billionaire or already a billionaire, but they went up another notch. So if a person with a little bit of amount of money to go into investment, I think you should invest into education first. Okay, don't listen to your friends and say, oh no, property is good, stocks is good, and then you just put it in. Because you know what? At the end of the day, remember what my grandpa said just now? Never lose money, right? So if you have a little bit of money to start, by asking that question, I believe you do not know the asset vehicle or the asset portfolio yet. So find which one that you're comfortable with that serve your financial objective. All right. So you must also know what you want, not what to invest. Is what do you want out from it? Some people may say certain thing like, wow, you can get 10%, 20% return. But is 10, 20% return can help you in your objective or not? Maybe you need the money in the next few years to do some family planning, to further your studies, to maybe, you know, take care of your parents who are getting old. You know, there's a lot of healthcare costs when our parents are getting old. Of course, if you have insurance, you know, would be good. But there's so a lot of things that you need to plan. So I think the life goal is you must know what you want first before you really go for it. And when you want to go for it, invest some time and money to learn first. I think that is all I can answer. I hope that answered the question. Any other question?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alan. So the next question is, because we are talking about living in the new normal. So, and some has even said that this COVID-19 has actually been the largest experiment for people to experience working from home, and also like practicing social distancing and also digital learning, for example. So when we are now buying properties, do we need to change the criteria that we used to use before that when considering about buying properties? Because before that, we may be thinking of buying properties near to a mall. but that lifestyle may be changing as people move into online shopping, for example. Or let's say like maybe people has realized healthcare is more important now. So living closer to a hospital may be even more important than living to a mall, for example. Yeah, and then from the landlord perspective as well, as universities has started to go into digital learning, so there may not be a tenant market for students anymore. Let's say like people will be buying in Sunway because students are studying in Sunway University or Utah in Star Park, for example. So do you think that we need to change the constituent factors when we are purchasing properties now, living in this new normal?
Another very big wide question here. Basically, buying a property has some few criteria lah. So there shouldn't be any changes. In fact, property, like I said, is a quite dry investment. It's not so exciting. It's really a investment vehicle for the dummies like me lah. So as long as you know the basics, the fundamentals, you need to know, you need to make sure that your property, number one, is an asset. If you are talking about investment lah, unless if you're talking about buying for your own stay, then as long as you like the property, your wife, your girlfriend likes it, husband or boyfriend, you just get it, and both of you have build memories in the space. But if you're talking about investment, there is always a criteria. That's why I said, for those of you who are asking this question, and if you're thinking of buying, there's nothing changes. I'm just giving you a perspective of what is happening out there. All right, you got to be creative lah. So if you know that maybe now there are more people who may be, if you're buying near a hospital or you're buying near a retail space, who do you rent it to? Always start with your end in mind, targeted tenant and whatnot. Yeah, I see a lot of questions in the question box. So perhaps you can go straight to the question. I believe you all want some answers. So I hope to give you direct answers rather than being general.
The next question, there's one audience who asked about REITs. So he was
the
asking,
name, what is the name? You can always mention their name. Let's credit their name for typing out. It's not easy to get awake for 1 hour listening to the talk.
I think actually there are a few people who's asking about online shopping.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, Dr. Alan, maybe you can introduce to some of the audience who may not have heard about REITs before. What is REITs, the Real Estate Investment Trust, and how the COVID-19 will impact actually some of these REITs, for example, those office, malls REITs, and how it's going to benefit the warehouse REITs, for example.
I'm not sure we have time because again, it's a very general question. I can do whole day just to talk on this. Why not just ask our good friend Uncle Google what is REITs? I think it's a very simple instrument. Okay, in fact, it's quite a safe instrument. But I would say timing the investment in REITs is another big topic lah, which I'm not going to cover. But I would say that REITs is pretty much okay to go in because at the end of the day, the what they call REITs are usually into industrial as well as also shopping malls. All right, it is something that if you do not want to get exposed too much, example, you don't want to get exposed just by buying a property and then you don't know how to rent it out, you may want to go into stocks related properties, all right, or REITs. REITs are actually real estate investment trusts. So REITs and other stock related properties are like basically developers public listed developers. So they are builders. REITs basically are assets that are under management by a trust. So and if you do not want to get the exposure too high, you need to understand what is that risk and go into it. There's no good or bad time. It's all again depend on, like I said, what you're comfortable with. Yeah.
So the next question we have from Chen Giap, who was asking whether do you see that this new normal will be permanent or this is just a short-term thing, that things will become normal, for example, when the vaccines are being available?
I think this is very direct. For Chen Giap, right? Ask yourself, would you want to go out and do a meeting with your friend if you can do it over Zoom? I asked myself this many times already, because when you want to go out, you either drive a car, take a Grab, so you incur some cost there. Then you go for parking. So all this timing, traffic, just to go and meet up over a cup of baby coffee. All right. Of course, there's still relevance in meeting up. All right. Like for me, I have a lot of meetings over this Zoom or Zoom call or Zoom meeting, and I also have meetings on site. All right. But I believe that in the new normal, That's why it's called the new normal. I don't foresee that things will go back to the same anymore, because everybody is experiencing fast speed and growth. All right, nothing on this new normal actually stop us, if you ask me. So if you look at it at the bright side, it is actually advantageous to us. So if it's advantageous to us, it's just like asking you the same thing. Would you want to use a smartphone, or you want to go back to the phone where there's no camera, you just have a boring nine digit dial? All right, both also can call. So the normal that we enjoy, or the normal that we are familiar to, the comfort zone, one of my last few slides that I show you, you have to go actually, what do you call this? Accept the fact that things will not be the same, but it is for the you know, for the greater good of mankind. Yeah.
Right. Okay, we have another question from Jason, asking about whether do you think that because I think in the newspaper they mentioned that foreigners are starting to buy property in Malaysia, especially from Hong Kong, when they have like political instability over there. So do you think that with foreigners buying these houses, the house price will go up, and what type of housing will they buy and where? And that's the question.
Very interesting. When people buy houses, will the prices go up? Again, very, very general. But definitely Malaysia have a lot of attractions, a lot of plus point for not just Hong Kong, but many foreigners to come, because we have good food, you know, and we have our cost is quite low, I would say. Especially foreigners, when they come to buy, usually they buy with cash. So they usually look for a place where they could retire, or they can build a family. And for those of them who are coming in to invest in property, usually for them, I would say the lifestyle is considered pretty much low or maybe manageable. So definitely there's a lot of plus point lah. And I wouldn't say that there is a general price increase, because foreigners who come in, usually in Malaysia, there is a so-called restriction for foreigners to buy. Certain places like KL, you know, it's 2 million, 1 million, and then Selangor is 2 million, Penang. So usually there will be a cap for how much can a foreigner buy, and also how much they can buy in terms of the property prices. So I don't think it will affect that. Even Malaysia itself, there are still a lot of people who actually haven't have a house yet. So that itself means to say that we have a lot of demand, and the supply is not enough. Supply is not enough. Yet we already have overhang. Can you imagine that? So moving forward, I think, but it's good to always promote that, because that means that there are more money, foreign money is coming to Malaysia to spend. Yeah.
Right.
Have I answered that question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the next question actually comes from when the participants actually registered. So it was asking about the bank loan moratorium, because I think before that, even on the social media, people were like having a huge discussion whether we should take out the bank moratorium or not in deferring the loan installment. So what is your take on that? Like, should we pay off our housing loan as soon as possible, or we should take this chance to defer the payments?
I think the question is that, do you think a 6-month moratorium is long enough or not? If you feel that, yeah, it's helpful because I need some money to run these few months, then by all means take it. If you feel that it doesn't affect me, why should I do it? Because I will incur interest, and then my repayment will be longer. Then if you have that kind of financial muscle, then by all means you don't have to take it. But I would say that because there's a lot of uncertainty, and if you really need the cash for certain opportunities, then also depending on portfolio, like if you have only one property with few hundred ringgit installment, I think you don't have to take it lah. I mean, you know, in fact, it costs more. The interest costs more than what you need to pay. But if you have a string of properties, okay, some investors have more than 5, 10, 15, 30. So that is a big amount, you know. And if it's not tenanted, if it's not performing, if it's performing, that's another question. So I would say that as a general rule of thumb, you take the moratorium if you need a lot of money. You need some money to run in the next few months. At least it gives some breather to the what they call this to the person who is actually experiencing that. Because if you are not sure whether you'll lose your job or not, so a lot of all this commitment you want to put on hold first. So I think it's okay. Anyway, banks are actually doing business. You can always talk to them even after the moratorium. Even now, there are certain associations already fighting to say that, you know, after opening the economy, things are getting slower. Can you actually extend it? So I think it's too early to tell because the moratorium will end in October. And but those of you who haven't taken it means you are actually okay lah. For those of you who are not okay, I think you have taken it from day one already.
The next question actually comes from our club president. He was asking about what is your view on Airbnb and also I think my other homestay business.
Oh, fantastic, Dr. Teo. You're talking about short stay Airbnb. Generally speaking, Airbnb falls into the category of tourism. All right, it's basically started up as a means to an end to tell people that, you know, far away from home, you can stay inside your home that you feel comfortable utilizing the pantry and the kitchen and whatnot. But because of the social distancing, I believe, as I said, that the recovery will be now, the domestic tourism will start to boost first. Airbnb will be here to stay, all right? But how will it change is yet to know. And there will be a lot of players in the market. Even before this already, Airbnb, the market is already, flooded with a lot of players because everybody is buying it, and based on calculation purposes, it's still better than a long term. Now, for me, I'm a very straightforward and a boring guy lah. I prefer long-term tenants because I like to build relationships, all right? And I like to make sure that they can stay there and they don't disturb me. Now, Airbnb, if we can systemize it, or if we use certain third-party kind of services where we can actually automated, every 2 to 3 days when people come in and check out the place, then by all means do it be Airbnb. But if you ask me generally, Airbnb, I think will be here to stay. Ultimately, it's just a period where people are afraid to travel, right? But eventually, I think it is still important. It is still important because some people want to lower the cost of, instead of going to a hotel, they want to have a so-called cheaper method. So Airbnb present that. So the business is still okay. Yeah. Any other questions or do we still have time?
I have one more. I think we can still answer one more questions. So I think this question is interesting because I think among our audience, we have some student members as well. So this question from Yu Liang, Chen Yu Liang. So he was asking, would you encourage the youngsters to buy houses like Prima and Rumah Wheat and look at longer terms to buy, means to upgrade to a more spacious housing later on? Yeah. So what's your advice to those probably like just starting out investing in real estate?
Yeah, I saw his question.
Yeah.
Richard. So I think the first is that I always tell people in property if you can stay with your parents first. They are getting old. Of course, if you are not from KL, you're outstation, then you rent first. Always try to buy a property that you can gives you rental first. But if you want to really buy for own stay, houses like Rumah Wheat is definitely a good deal. At 300,000 with your salary slip, definitely go for it. Definitely go for it, because at the end of the day, these houses are meant for you. People like you who are young, you are young and you need that kind of, because Rumah Wheat is very, very good, Prima. But the question is this: are you eligible or not? Have you gotten it or not? Yeah. Then of course you want to upgrade, we can talk later. But of course, if you buy Rumah Wheat and Prima, you cannot rent it out because there's a requirement there. All right. And of course, after the requirement, you can do whatever you want. You can sell it. But I wouldn't say you want to flip a property that way. There are still many secondary housing sub-sale property out there that you can flip. So maybe you can, if your income entails, you can buy more than one. Okay, not simultaneously. Maybe after 1 year you buy already, then the second year you buy again, and stuff like that. All right. So of course there's a lot of calculation there, but I can't address this here. So if I can just go through the question, I think a few more, right? Let me just quickly go through, because I feel that it's a pity if they ask so long and nobody answer. Digital education, is it affecting the real estate industry? Hostel management operators whose major target are the students. Yeah, digital is definitely the way forward, and that's why a lot of all these apps were out . I think the whole idea is that if you're talking about business point of view in real estate using digital implementation, one have to be really careful . I mean, you need to have a business knowledge, not just about the trend. Yeah, I hope I answered this. And what else? Retail combined with live streaming is a good idea. Thank you. How does people choose to shop online or retail is about? I wouldn't choose to buy a shoe without online trying. Okay, cool. All right, that's why I wouldn't say not every product can be online, but if you Google and you realize that actually all products also can be online, okay, from food to even shoes and all these things. It all depends on how much details and what are the trust level that you have. A lot of people say that Alibaba cannot start, back those days when China was still under the so-called not so modern status. But today you can see everything is from China, right? All right, and then there's this refund policy. So if today you have a mall next to your 5 km from your place and you can always refund and return that, why not? You can always buy the shoe, try it first, cannot, then you can return it. So I think that's done. Sorry, Richard, if I just want to go through some of it so that I can
sure.
shoot up the new norm. Do you foresee the cost of real estate to shoot up? Well, it all depends. But I said property bull run is coming because why? Financing is cheap, all right, and there's a lot of properties right now. There's good time, bad times. There are people still want to sell property because they need money. So when they sell property and you want to buy, it matches, you negotiate, you make money lah. All right. It doesn't have to depend on whether the market is like that bad or good, foreign worker, or all these things lah. All right. But definitely, yes, maybe there will be lesser foreign worker because you need to hire a lot of jobless. We are expecting more than 2 million people jobless. The last 2 quarters, 860,000 already jobless. So not jobless, not counting those who just graduate without a job. Unemployed, retrenched, and jobless are 3 different categories. So definitely that, in fact, the first life mall that I am involved in, we are looking for some of these people who are jobless, unemployed, or who need a so-called income lah. That one you can PM me later. Any friends who need that, yeah. And does online shopping bring bad impacts to the real estate as the downsizing? No. It's just the facade of the real estate will change. There'll be more warehouse to fulfill. There will be shops will be used for warehousing. Even malls will be used for warehousing. You walk in, you just see the studio only and things like that. Yeah. Okay, I'm practically done. Any other questions on the floor?
I think that's all. Yeah. So thank you very much again, Alan, for being our speaker today for our very first
thank you very much.
FunHub webinar. Of course, thank you very much to all the participants for joining us today, because we really appreciate your time dedicated to this webinar. So we hope that you have gained valuable insights and knowledge pertaining to this topic. So for more information about our upcoming webinars, as well as our future club activities, do follow us on our Facebook page, KF Scholars Club. Yeah, if you would like to join, if you are KF Scholars and you would like to join as a member, you can also drop us an email at kfscholars@gmail.com, or you can just send us a text at our Facebook page. So on behalf of all the KFSC committee, we would like to thank all of you again and have a great weekend. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.